So my wife and I bought a house several years ago now, and we've been doing everything from flooring to bathroom to roofing, kind of you name it. So why are we looking to put an addition off the back of it? Why are we going to make it passive? Why bother going to net zero? And what's that got to do with me walking in the woods? All right, so let's hit them in order. So first, if we own a house and it's just my wife and I, why would I want to build an in-law off the back? Well, the short version is I moved to the States about 10 years ago, and my wife's family is all still around here, and that's awesome, but sometimes my Australian family like to come visit. So we only got a 2-bed, 1-bath house, so we would like at least an extra bathroom, and the extra bedroom certainly would help too if they want to come for long periods of time. And the second one is, my wife and I have always dreamed of building our own house. We tried to subdivide our lot quite a while ago now, and long story short is it didn't quite work out. But, now that we are kind of fortunate enough to have bought a place when the market wasn't terribly crazy like it is now, we decided, hey, let's build our addition off the back instead. It kind of works out because, additions tend to be pretty small. They're not going to have all the same material costs that a whole house is. The infrastructure's already there. Less wood, smaller kitchen, smaller bathroom, etc. So it should work out quite well. So I feel actually very fortunate to be in the position that I'm even currently in, to be honest. So all we're doing is, scaling all of that way down and taking all the ideas we've always dreamed of having and putting them into a small footprint. So what makes the addition passive? Well, in short, passive is kind of a nod to the building practice behind making a passive house, which essentially is a way of minimizing the amount of mechanical systems needed to heat and cool the house, as well as having very thick walls with lots and lots of insulation. And then on top of that, we make it very airtight so that cracks around, say, doors and windows don't have a lot of heat or cold leakage coming in. So we can really control that envelope of the house itself. And the third thing, which is pretty interesting, is minimizing thermal bridging, which is basically how, you have a coffee cup and you fill it full of hot water and that actual coffee cup itself starts to heat up. So that's a thermal bridge. When you compare it to something like a thermos, where they have those like double walls on the inside and the outside of the cup, what happens then is there's that little air gap between them. So the outside doesn't match the temperature of the inside wall. And so what that does is it creates a thermal break. So by doing that, you don't actually have heat or cold traveling along that stud wall. So what's net zero, and what's that got to do with me walking in the woods? Well, in short, net zero is basically the idea that if I can heat and cool and do everything in the house with just electricity, then I'll be able to put enough solar panels on the house to basically break even over the course of a year. What tends to happen here where I am in the northeast of the US is in the summer, we get a little bit more sunshine, so I'll probably get a credit back on my electricity bill. And then in the winter, we tend to have a little less, so I'd probably be chewing up that credit. But the idea is that over the course of a year, we'd break even and actually get to zero. So you could probably have a huge solar array on a regular code-built house and not have to go with the thick walls and the really airtight construction that we're planning. But to get to net zero, that becomes really hard because you either have to have a lot of solar panels, which also gets expensive really fast too, or what you have to have is a really big roof, which you may end up running out of roof faster than you're able to actually offset all of that electricity. So by basically building a thermos to live in, we can have a very small solar array and then hit net zero. So why am I walking in the woods then? Well, it's kind of analogous, really. My wife and I are big sustainability nerds. We try to minimize our carbon footprint as much as possible and limit the amount of fossil fuels we're using. And hopefully by going passive and net zero, it really just comes down to sustainability, where we feel like we're doing our small part to preserve nature just like this for future generations. So building an addition is obviously going to consume resources. It takes energy to create the products and then ship them to our house. So in a future episode, I'm actually going to try to dig into that and really look at how much of the embodied carbon is in our house from when we built it. So if you're interested in coming along for the journey, subscribe. And if you're interested in building an in-law for yourself, let me know down in the comments. Or if you're just interested in, passive and net zero design, love to have you along for the journey. Take care, guys.